London, 1888. A fog-laced city on the edge of darkness. In the slums of Whitechapel, where cobbled streets echo with the steps of the lost and the desperate, evil was about to leave its permanent mark. It was the year 1888. The East End of London was a festering wound on the city's surface, overcrowded, poverty-stricken, and forgotten by the rest of the Victorian capital. Whitechapel, in particular, was a place where society had turned its back. Brothels lined the alleys, gin flowed like water, and crime, disease, and misery were part of everyday life. But that year, something darker than poverty would haunt Whitechapel. Between the late summer and early autumn, the bodies of 5 women, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, were discovered in brutal, mutilated conditions. The press dubbed the killer Jack the Ripper. His name would become etched in history. But at the time, he was a faceless monster, an invisible phantom who seemed to vanish as quickly as he struck. On the morning of August 31st, 1888, a car driver named Charles Cross made a gruesome discovery on Bucks Row, now Durward Street. The body of Mary Ann Nichols, known as Polly, lay on the damp stones. Her throat had been slashed twice, nearly decapitating her, and her abdomen had been viciously mutilated. She was 43 years old, homeless, and had turned to sex work to survive. She was last seen alive just hours before. The nature of the wounds shocked the police. This wasn't a robbery. This wasn't random. This was surgical, precise. The killer hadn't just attacked Polly. He displayed her. Just 8 days later, on September 8th, the killer struck again. This time, his victim was Annie Chapman, a 47-year-old woman with no fixed address. Her body was found in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street, just as the sun rose. But this time, it was worse. Her throat had been cut, her abdomen sliced open, and something was missing. Her uterus had been removed with shocking accuracy. The police brought in medical examiners who confirmed the killer had anatomical knowledge. Was he a butcher? A doctor? A mortuary assistant? The whispers began. This isn't just murder. This is a message. Then came September 30th, 1888, what would be known as the double event. At 1 a.m., a passerby found the body of Elizabeth Stride in Dutfield's yard. Her throat had been cut, but her body hadn't been mutilated. Some believe the killer was interrupted before he could finish. Less than an hour later, just 45 minutes away, another woman, Catherine Eddowes, was found dead in Mitre Square. This time, the killer made up for his earlier interruption. Catherine's face was slashed, her abdomen ripped open, her kidney and part of her uterus were removed. And again, the cuts were precise, almost surgical. London was in full panic. The police had no suspects, no witnesses, just bodies and fear. Just days before the double murder, the press received a chilling letter, written in red ink. Dear boss, it read, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I am down on whores, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. Signed, Jack the Ripper. The name stuck. Then came another letter, this time accompanied by half a human kidney. The writer claimed it came from the body of Catherine Eddowes. Whether the letters were real or the work of a cruel hoax, no one knew for sure. But the fear they spread was very real. The Ripper's spree culminated on November 9th, 1888, in a small room on 13 Miller's Court. The victim was Mary Jane Kelly, a 25-year-old who lived and worked in the room where she died. Unlike the other victims, Mary was killed indoors, giving the Ripper more time. The scene was horrific. Her face was hacked beyond recognition. Her body was practically flayed. Organs were removed and placed around the room in a macabre display. Police officers who witnessed the scene were forever haunted. One fainted, another later said. It looked more like the work of a devil than a man. After Mary Jane, the Ripper vanished, just disappeared. The police launched the largest manhunt in British history up to that point. Hundreds were interviewed, dozens were detained. Suspects ranged from barbers to surgeons, princes to lunatics. Some said the killer was a doctor. Others said a foreigner. Still others whispered he was someone from the royal family, protected from arrest. Posters went up, rewards were offered, but nothing ever stuck. Londoners demanded answers. But the truth was, Scotland Yard had none. The Ripper was like smoke, seen only by the destruction he left behind. The murders stopped, but their echo never did. Whitechapel would never be the same. The fear Jack the Ripper inspired didn't just paralyze London. It shaped the way society viewed crime, poverty, and justice. The case would launch the beginnings of modern criminal profiling, and Jack's legacy would become immortal. More than 130 years later, the question still lingers. Who was Jack the Ripper? Was he a doctor? A butcher? A sadistic genius hiding in plain sight? Or was he something more terrifying? Someone protected? Someone never suspected? He vanished into the fog. But more than a century later, we are still chasing his shadow. As the final murder faded into the past, the London Metropolitan Police were left with an impossible task: find a phantom. Inspector Frederick Aberline of Scotland Yard was the lead investigator. Seasoned, sharp, and respected, Aberline threw himself into the case. But even he admitted, "We are dealing with a maniac, one who slips through the cracks." There was no clear evidence, no fingerprints, no CCTV, just mutilated victims, strange letters, and theories that spiraled out of control. The press had a field day. Cartoons, headlines, and speculations flew across front pages daily. The public began offering their own solutions. Even Queen Victoria demanded answers. But the deeper they looked, the darker it got. Over the decades, more than 100 suspects have been proposed. Some credible, others shocking. One, Montague John Druitt, a barrister and school teacher. He was found drowned in the Thames in December 1888, shortly after the last murder. Some believed he was mentally unstable, and his suicide, suspiciously timed, suggested guilt. But there was no hard evidence. 2. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant and known lunatic living in Whitechapel. He was committed to an asylum not long after the murders. In the 2010s, modern DNA testing on a shawl, supposedly belonging to victim Catherine Eddowes, claimed to link him to the crime. Yet, many experts disputed the science. The shawl's origin was questionable. The evidence, inconclusive. 3. Prince Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence. Yes, the grandson of Queen Victoria. A royal scandal theory suggested he had contracted syphilis and gone insane. Others claimed he was involved in a cover-up surrounding his secret marriage to a prostitute. But there's no record he was even in London during the murders. 4. Dr. Thomas Neilcream, a convicted serial poisoner who murdered several women. But there's a problem. He was in prison in Illinois during the Ripper murders. Some say he bribed his way out and back in. Others think this theory was just fantasy. 5. Walter Sickert, a well-known British painter. Author Patricia Cornwell even spent millions investigating him, buying his paintings and DNA testing letters. She was convinced Sickert had a sadistic obsession with mutilation, but her theory remains heavily disputed by most historians. During the Ripper spree, over 200 letters were sent to the press and police. Asterisk the most infamous, the Dear Boss letter, signed Jack the Ripper. Asterisk then came the From Hell letter, delivered with a human kidney dot. Were they written by the killer? Or attention-seeking pranksters? Handwriting experts remain divided. Many believe journalists created them to boost newspaper sales. Others argue the tone was too authentic, too dark to be fake. The From Hell letter, written with poor spelling and grammar, matched the killer's likely background better than the elegant prose of the earlier notes. Some say it's the only real one. Still, like everything else in this case, no answer is certain. In 2014, author Russell Edwards claimed the mystery had been solved. He presented a stained shawl, said to be from Catherine Eddowes' crime scene. He worked with genetic expert Jari Luhalainen to test mitochondrial DNA on the fabric. The results, they said, matched descendants of Aaron Kosminski. Headlines around the world declared, Jack the Ripper identified. But the shawl had no official chain of custody. No records confirmed it was even at the murder scene. Critics argued it had been contaminated over time, and mitochondrial DNA, isn't unique. Hundreds of people could share the same match. So while some believe Kosminski was indeed the killer, others cried foul. Was this justice at last? Or just another false lead? For too long, the mystery has focused on the killer. But behind every headline were real women, with names, stories, and pain. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly. They weren't just prostitutes, as history often labeled them. Many were mothers, survivors, women trying to stay alive in a cruel, cold world. Mary Ann had 5 children. Annie had worked in a flower shop. Catherine was known for her humor. Mary Jane was said to sing Irish ballads late at night. Their lives were stolen, not just by the Ripper, but by a society that didn't protect them. More than 130 years later, Jack the Ripper's case remains unsolved. He has inspired books, films, video games, and endless documentaries. But why? Perhaps it's because he got away, because he struck from the shadows, because he challenged the illusion of safety. The idea that someone so monstrous could vanish without a trace still terrifies us. Modern profiling describes him as likely. Asterisk white male, aged 25 to 35. Asterisk possibly single, isolated. Asterisk with some anatomical knowledge. Asterisk likely living near Whitechapel. Asterisk able to blend into the crowd. Normal, forgettable, invisible. But even the best profiles are still guesses. Slow fade into a foggy Victorian alley. The sound of footsteps, a woman's scream, in the distance, silence. Jack the Ripper didn't just kill in the streets of London. He killed in the minds of generations. He left behind not just bodies, but a question we may never answer. Jack the Ripper vanished without a trace, but the questions he left behind still haunt history. Was he a madman? A mastermind? Or someone we'd never dare suspect? 100 years later, we're still chasing the shadow, and the truth may be darker than we ever imagined. Don't forget to like, comment your theory, and subscribe, because the next case might be even more twisted.